Something sacred was stirred yesterday, and it had everything to do with you. Behind a sealed door, your name was whispered not in admiration, but in fear. 3 individuals sat across from each other, files opened, messages revealed, conversations dissected, conversations you didn't even know were being watched. And somewhere in that silence, someone said the words, "Remove them before they rise." But this isn't a warning, it's a confirmation. The first saw your growth as a threat. The second wavered, unnerved by how much light is now surrounding you, too focused, too protected, too awakened. But it was the third who shattered the illusion of control. They slammed down a folder, your folder, and, in a voice barely louder than a breath, they said, "We're already too late. Something greater is guiding this one." In that moment, every person in the room realized they were witnessing something they were never meant to touch, let alone control. What was supposed to stay hidden broke through the walls of secrecy, and the truth they feared the most began to unfold right before them. They saw what you felt all along. You are not walking alone. The hand of the Almighty has been over your life. The same God who says in Deuteronomy 31:6, "Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." This message didn't stumble into your life by mistake. You were meant to hear it at this moment, in this exact season, because what they tried to shut down is the very thing God is raising up. What began yesterday cannot be undone. Heaven has already moved. The shift is already in motion, and now the evidence is finding you. This is no longer about what they tried to stop. It's about what heaven has started. So now, chosen one, if you can feel the pull in your spirit, the quiet confirmation in your chest, type Amen in the comments below as your declaration. Say it boldly as someone who knows they've been appointed, not overlooked. But whatever you do, don't scroll away, because in just a moment, we will step into a prayer, a covering crafted for this exact battle you didn't know you were in. And in that prayer, chains will break, clarity will come, strength will rise. And now, chosen one, hear what followed. What lay inside that final folder was not a plan of exile, nor a plot to silence your voice. No, it was something far more unsettling to those who thought they held power over your path. It was a timeline, a record they couldn't rewrite, a divine sequence that defied their logic. Page after page, they found moments you should not have survived, days you should have crumbled, betrayals that should have broken you. Yet, each time, you rose, not weaker, but wiser, not bitter, but bolder. They tracked your life like investigators chasing the impossible, and still, they couldn't explain how doors kept opening just when the odds were stacked against you. One of them leaned in, brows furrowed, voice low. Someone is accelerating their rise. This isn't natural, because it wasn't. It was supernatural. They saw favor fall over your timeline, like rain over desert ground, at the exact moment your soul needed it most. Mercy showed up where judgment was expected. Protection appeared the moment danger whispered your name. Provision came out of nowhere. And blessings that made no sense at all. The book of Psalms says, "The Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of their lives." Psalm 37-23. And that's what they saw. Divine fingerprints all over your journey. But nothing compared to what came next. At the very bottom of that folder, beneath all their notes and records, was a message no one had placed there. A note written in a hand none of them recognized. No name, no source. Just a single sentence, still echoing in their minds. Their season starts now. At that moment, silence took over the room like a windless storm. One of them asked, "Who wrote this?" But no one could answer. They flipped through every document, scanned every page. The handwriting didn't match any file. It didn't even match the system they used to archive such meetings. One voice, more shaken than the rest, murmured, This message wasn't placed here by a human, and with that, the illusion of control collapsed. The meeting unraveled, not because of a threat, but because of a truth they were never meant to see. That you, chosen one, are not walking through life by coincidence. You are being guided, shielded, positioned, not by people, but by a presence they can't confront. One of them sat back, hands trembling, eyes wide with something close to awe. "If this continues," they whispered, "we won't be able to touch them at all." And it was then that everything changed. They stopped trying to remove you. They stopped trying to reroute your path. Instead, they started to ask questions no human could answer. Who is behind this? Who is walking with them? Why now? It reminded them, perhaps for the first time, that there are powers beyond strategy, forces beyond files. And the most dangerous thing they discovered wasn't your resilience or your growth. It was your backing, because someone, the one who knit you together in your mother's womb, Psalm 139-13, had written a decree they could neither deny nor delay. And that note was the beginning of the end for every plan against you. So now, as the meeting unraveled, their voices rose in chaos. Some argued, some tried to deny what they had seen. Others fell silent, knowing deep down they had witnessed something holy. Not a threat, but a move of God. And what happened in the final 5 minutes of that meeting? That's when the truth broke wide open. What they feared most wasn't your voice. It wasn't your growth. It was the evidence that heaven was involved. And when they realized that nothing they built could stand against what was written for you, panic took over. One kept looking behind them as if someone unseen was standing in the room. Another reached to close the folder but couldn't steady their hands. The third simply whispered, "It's already begun." And they were right. Your season has begun. Not because the world allowed it, but because heaven declared it. And what was written cannot be erased. And so the meeting continued, no longer with the confidence of control, but with the fragile panic of people who had seen something they could not explain. As the tension in the room reached its peak, the lights flickered just briefly, but enough to send a chill through every soul present. Not one of them spoke for a moment, and then, quietly, almost like a confession, someone said, "This is a sign. They're being protected." That's when everything they'd built began to crumble. Their strategies, their timelines, their coordinated attempts to delay your rise became useless, because it finally dawned on them that you were never walking through life unguarded. You were never alone in your struggle. There was always a covering, a force they couldn't touch. Scripture says in Exodus 14:14, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." And in that stillness, when they realized the battle was not yours but his, they backed down. The eldest among them, the one who had led the discussion with calm authority, leaned forward with solemn eyes and said only this, "We withdraw. If we continue, it will backfire." But just as they began to gather their notes and leave the room, one last document slid loose from the folder no one had dared open. It bore your name. Next to it, a symbol one they did not recognize, yet all instinctively feared. It wasn't part of their files, wasn't in their system, and no one could say how it got there. But they knew what it meant. Your rise had already begun. Not in the future, not soon, now. They tried to explain it away. One whispered, "If they ever find out the truth, everything changes." And they were right. Because the truth they feared is the truth that was written before time itself. That symbol wasn't decorative, it wasn't abstract. It marked a divine shift, a transition. It meant that you were stepping into a phase where earthly patterns no longer apply, where rules set by others no longer define your limits. It symbolized elevation, not the kind granted by people, but the kind ordained by heaven. As it is written in 1 Samuel 2:8, "He lifts the poor from the dust and the needy from the garbage dump. He sets them among princes, placing them in seats of honor. That symbol marked you as one who rises unexpectedly, one who survives storms that level others, one who carries a mantle not given by men, but placed by the Most High. One of them, visibly shaken, whispered, "This symbol, it only appears when someone is being moved into a higher phase." The meeting was no longer about stopping you, it became about bracing for what your rise would trigger. And that's when the truth spilled out. Someone finally confessed they'd been watching your journey for months, tracking your movements, your growth, your resilience. Every attempt to restrain you had failed in ways they couldn't predict. The harder life tried to break you, the more aligned you became. You didn't just bounce back, you transformed. Setbacks became launching pads. Delays became training grounds. Losses forged wisdom. And nothing about your ascent fit their patterns. One of them asked, almost in disbelief, "How do we control someone who only grows under pressure?" But the question wasn't about control anymore. It was about understanding why you were untouchable. Then came the part that shifted everything. In those final moments, as they scrambled for answers, they stumbled upon a projection buried deep, marked confidential. It wasn't part of their original agenda. Someone had slipped it in, and when they opened it, their faces changed. Because there, outlined clearly, was a forecasted event tied to your name, a turning point, a convergence they couldn't block, delay, or rewrite. According to their data, you are about to enter a window of acceleration, not gradual growth, but divine momentum. Opportunities, alignments, open doors, unexplained favor. It was all timed and imminent. One of them looked up, pale, and said, "If this happens, they won't just rise, they'll outrun everyone." And at last, they saw it. You were never in danger of being removed. You were in danger of becoming unstoppable. Because what's coming for you isn't the result of striving. It's the result of divine orchestration. As the prophet Isaiah declared, "When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen." Isaiah 60:22. And they saw it, the time is now. Not even their silence could hide what had been revealed. Not even their fear could stop what heaven had released. The final 5 minutes of that meeting didn't end with action plans. They ended with reverence and dread. Because your name, once discussed as a risk, had become a prophecy. What followed in that room can only be described as the unraveling of everything they thought they understood. The projection they had feared, the one marked in red, revealed not just a moment, but a divine appointment. The data on the screen showed a sudden, dramatic shift about to take place in your life. Not random, not gradual. A moment, specific and powerful, where everything changes direction. A meeting, a message, a connection, a breakthrough that appears from nowhere but carries the weight of destiny behind it. They saw you stepping into something far greater than anything they had tracked. Favor that bypasses process, authority that needs no permission, doors opening before your hand even reaches the handle. One of them whispered, almost breathless, "If they walk into this moment, everything we've tried to monitor multiplies." That's when panic took over. Not because they didn't expect your rise, but because they never expected it to come this fast. The projection highlighted a specific date, red, underlined, circled, marked with one word, activation. That word changed everything. According to their own data, once this point was reached, your growth would no longer follow any traceable pattern. It would accelerate beyond their systems, beyond their strategies, beyond their control. Your reach would stretch. Your name would echo. Your steps would move in sync with something they couldn't trace. One stood up so suddenly their chair hit the floor. Another, trembling, muttered, "If this triggers, they'll rise beyond our reach." That's when the oldest in the room, someone who had witnessed countless others rise and fall, spoke what none of them wanted to admit. "We must intervene now, before the activation begins." But the intervention they spoke of was never about stopping you, it was about slowing you. They launched a plan, not of removal, but of redirection, confusion, distraction, noise, anything to break your rhythm, dull your focus, distort your clarity. One suggested inserting delays. Another wanted to rearrange timing, shift key people away, cloud your decisions with false urgency. But the elder slammed their fist against the table and growled, "We can't delay them. Every time we try, something lifts them higher." And that was the moment the truth they avoided finally caught up to them. Because what they didn't understand, what they had never accounted for, was that your strength didn't come from perfect conditions. It came from pressure. Every attempt to bury you only uncovered more of what God placed within you. Every setback sharpened your spirit. Every delay prepared your foundation. You weren't just surviving resistance. You were transformed by it. One voice, quiet but clear, broke the silence. "This one is protected from angles we can't see." Another followed. "If we touch their path again, it may come back on us." And just like that, the meeting shifted from strategy to surrender. They didn't choose to block you. They chose to retreat from you. Then came the final revelation, the one they had been avoiding from the beginning. The head of the table, pale and silent, opened the last file, the one no one dared touch. Inside were details they could not explain, moments when you should have broken but didn't, times when everything should have stopped but you kept moving, attempts to isolate you only to watch unexpected allies appear. One page after another, the patterns were undeniable. Your setbacks led to acceleration. Your silence gave birth to strength. Your pauses realigned everything around you. And then, the sentence that ended it all. The elder leaned in, scanning the last page, and said, "They're not rising alone. Someone powerful is guiding them." The room went cold. What had begun as an analysis turned into reverence. The atmosphere changed. Not a single word was said for minutes. They weren't looking at data anymore. They were looking at a calling they could neither touch nor trace. The file revealed movement that wasn't human, protection that didn't follow logic, favor that broke their systems. And through it all, your name stood at the center of events they could not control. One whispered, "Their destiny isn't in our hands, it never was." And then the meeting ended. Quietly, uneasily. Chairs scraped back, papers were collected. No more plans, no more interference. Just one final line, written carefully in the official record. Do not obstruct their path. Yet, even as the room emptied, one thing remained. On the screen, still pulsing, still glowing, was the activation window. It had not faded, it had not shifted, it remained fixed in time, a moment marked in the unseen. Not just a date, but a divine threshold, a turning point wrapped in heavenly precision. And that window, chosen one, is still waiting. What's coming isn't a coincidence. It's not a lucky break. It's a season shift. The beginning of what was always promised, but had not yet arrived. Your life isn't simply changing, it's transitioning into alignment with everything that was written before you were ever seen. And when that moment comes, nothing, no plan, no voice, no delay can stop what the Most High has already released. As it is written in Job 42:2, "I know that you can do all things, and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted." What they feared is the very thing God has ordained, and it is almost here. And so it continued. What had begun as a routine analysis became something far beyond their comprehension. At first, they thought they were tracking patterns, but the more they looked, the more they realized they were standing at the edge of a divine design, something ancient, something precise, something set in motion long before they ever tried to monitor your life. Something massive was unfolding, not by accident, not by chance, but by appointment. The activation window they saw on the screen was not a random date. It was aligned with the very fabric of your journey, woven through your battles, your breakthroughs, and every moment you stood back up after being knocked down. It was time to the tears no one saw, the growth no one expected, and the quiet strength you built in the shadows. One analyst, overcome with the weight of it all, whispered, "This moment will shift their destiny in real time." Another, scanning accelerated charts, said, "Whatever they touch during this window multiplies." And that's when the room changed, because they realized the activation wasn't a theory. It was real, it was imminent, and it was outside their reach. Activation is not luck. It is purpose meeting timing. It is the collision between what heaven declared and what earth must now make room for. Once this window opens, things begin to move fast. Doors swing wide with no keys. People align without persuasion. Resources appear where there was once only lack. And your name, yes, your name begins to carry weight in places you've never been, among voices you've never heard, in rooms you've never stepped into. The elder, who had said little until now, finally spoke. If this window triggers, their growth becomes unstoppable. And they all knew it. They feared it. But they also understood it was never theirs to stop. Because the activation was never placed by them. It was placed for you. It was the unfolding of a word that had been spoken over you before you were even formed in the womb. As it is written in Jeremiah 1-5. "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." And when the activation window flashed on the screen, the analysts scrambled to find patterns, but all the patterns led to the same outcome, a surge that could not be slowed. They weren't just witnessing growth, they were witnessing alignment. And alignment, chosen one, is when everything that seemed delayed arrives all at once. Connections return with new meaning. Paths once closed become clear. You don't chase it comes to you. Not because you demanded it, but because the time had finally caught up with what heaven ordained. One of the analysts trembled and said, "This kind of shift only happens once in a lifetime, and only for those who have been prepared for it." It wasn't just growth they saw, it was a leap that terrified them. Because after this leap, your name wouldn't just rise, it would resonate. Your presence would become undeniable, your calling irreversible, your path untouchable. They saw reports confirming breakthroughs in places where doors had been shut. Old connections resurfacing with divine timing. An upward turn so sharp, so fast, the system itself flagged the projection as unprecedented. One whispered, "This isn't normal, this is exponential." But the rise wasn't the most shocking part, it was the speed. Your influence wouldn't climb slowly, it would accelerate. And more than that, it would extend beyond your environment. They watched as the data revealed your name moving across unseen networks, whispered in conversations you weren't part of, placed on lists you hadn't applied for, and welcomed into circles you hadn't even imagined. And then came the final line that silenced every voice in the room. They are meant for something larger than their current life. In that moment, every effort to contain you collapsed. No one debated, no one argued. They simply accepted it. You were stepping into a destiny too aligned, too protected, and too powerful for interference. Then, just as they closed the last chart, thinking the session was over, another alert blinked on the screen. A live update, a real-time shift. One of them opened it, and their face turned pale. Another leaned forward, eyes wide. And then, in a voice barely above a whisper, someone said, "It's already begun. We're too late." Because the activation wasn't coming. It had already started, before the room gathered, before they planned, before they even noticed you were rising. Heaven had already released the command. As it is written in Isaiah 46:10, "I make known the end from the beginning. My purpose will stand. and I will do all that I please. This was never about your potential. It was about God's plan. And once that plan was set into motion, no meeting, no opposition, no delay could hold it back. And so, as they sat in stunned silence, watching your trajectory break through every barrier they thought would hold you, they understood the truth. You were not rising by accident. You were being lifted on time, by design, and with purpose. And nothing will ever be the same again. The shift was subtle but unmistakable. Around your name, data began to move. The very code that tracked time, momentum, and alignment began to pulse differently. The system detected a ripple, an unseen force, beginning to realign circumstances in your favor. And it didn't just mark a possibility. It marked a fulfillment. The alert showed that a new connection had been made, a name had been mentioned, a door had been nudged open, a path had begun to clear. It happened on the very same day. They gathered behind closed doors to discuss how to delay you. But by the time they spoke, something greater had already spoken first. The alignment had begun before they even sat down. One analyst leaned toward the screen, voice low, heart pounding, and whispered words they never expected to say. This is the first sign of activation. It's happening ahead of schedule. And with that, the room froze. Because this wasn't theoretical anymore. This wasn't projections or assumptions. This was reality. This was divine timing manifesting in real time. They were no longer forecasting your future. They were watching it unfold, watching the very thing they tried to avoid move forward with unstoppable force. But the alert was only the beginning. What followed was far more extraordinary. The system flashed a message no one in that room had ever seen before, not in years of analysis, not in thousands of records. It wasn't a line of data. It was a declaration, a sentence that stopped every breath in the room. Trajectory locked. Acceleration initiated. That single line stripped the illusion of control from every mind present. It signaled what heaven had already decided. It marked the moment where effort gave way to promise, where monitoring gave way to wonder, where interference bowed to sovereignty. One analyst stood back from the screen, visibly shaken, and murmured, "We can't reverse it now. Their path is sealed." And in that moment, the truth they tried to keep out of the room came crashing in like a flood. Everything they feared you might become, you were already becoming. The rise they hoped to delay was in motion. The influence they tried to contain was expanding. And the backing they had overlooked had already taken command. This wasn't a future hope. It was a present reality. And that's when the final veil lifted. All their calculations, projections, and strategies were useless now. They could not slow what had already been activated. They could not resist what had already been written. They moved to close the session. The room no longer buzzed with plans, it stood still in revelation. One of them, the one who had watched silently, finally spoke. "Write the final note. This case is beyond us now." And so, it was written. Not paragraphs, not long-winded explanations, no panic, no excuses. Just one clear conclusion, typed slowly, each letter like a drumbeat of surrender. Their elevation is authorized. Stand down. It was more than a phrase. It was a seal, a divine stamp on a path no longer available for manipulation. That line wasn't permission from people, it was acknowledgement of God's timing. It was recognition of the higher hand moving behind every scene. As the prophet Daniel once recorded, "He changes times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning." Daniel 2:21. And in that moment, they knew this was a shift no one could engineer. This was holy, and it was irreversible. After that declaration, something unspoken passed through the room. The pressure lifted, the resistance cracked. What had once been held tightly in tension was now loosed, and the document was stamped with the final seal. Do not obstruct. Their rise is aligned. And that was it. The meeting ended. Chairs were pushed back, but slowly. Papers were gathered in silence. The voices that had once spoken boldly now faded. There were no more objections, no alternate paths suggested. Every strategy that had once seemed firm now lay like dust at their feet. But even after they left, something remained. The screen still glowed, a quiet light pulsing in the corner. A final update, almost as if heaven wanted them to witness one last thing before it was too late. The update did not contain warnings or analytics. It simply marked a movement. A new doorway had opened, a connection had formed, a shift had begun. A blocked path lit up, and around your name, something sacred stirred. One person, perhaps the only one, brave enough to speak truth aloud, paused at the door. And, in a voice no longer hiding behind data, they said what the rest only feared. Their new chapter has already begun, and indeed, it had. Not in the loud, visible way the world expects, but in the quiet unfolding of God's will. Like how David was anointed while still in the field, overlooked by men but chosen by God. Like how Esther was raised for a moment she didn't see coming, but one that changed everything. You see, the truth is this: they did not remove you, they did not slow you, they did not stop you. Instead, your rise became official. From the moment they signed that line, heaven moved. The activation window burst open. Opportunities once blocked began to shift. People once distant began to realign. Rooms you were never invited into began to prepare a seat. Your name, once whispered in resistance, began to echo in favor. The momentum around your life, the one they feared most, has already begun. The unseen hand of the Almighty has pressed forward, and now every part of your story is moving into divine motion, not in fragments, not in delay, but with synchronized acceleration. One person, almost afraid to believe it, whispered, "Once their path is cleared, the momentum becomes unstoppable." And it's true. From this point on, the journey changes. What once took years will happen in moments. What once felt heavy will lift with grace. The people who once misunderstood your purpose will be replaced with those who protect it. The opportunities you thought were lost will return bigger, better, and in the exact measure heaven designed. And the greatest shift of all, the resistance around your name has collapsed. Because they finally understood this wasn't just your story, this was God's story through you. As the psalmist once wrote, "The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes." Psalm 118:23. And now the doors are opening, the light is breaking through, the wind is shifting in your direction. You are not rising someday, you are rising now. And now, chosen one, before your steps carry you fully into the momentum that has been released around you, there is something far deeper that must happen within you. Because true elevation, the kind that lasts, the kind that shifts nations and generations, never begins with outer movement. It begins with inner transformation. The breakthrough you're walking into isn't just about promotion, favor, or recognition. It's about identity. It's about alignment between who heaven says you are and how you see yourself. You see, the rise that has been authorized over your life cannot be carried by the version of you that survived the last chapter. The battles you've come through refined you, but they were never meant to define you. You are not simply the person who endured. You are the person who was being prepared. Prepared in silence, prepared through fire, prepared through seasons of hiddenness where no one saw what was being cultivated behind the scenes. As it says in 1 Samuel 16, David was anointed king long before he wore a crown. The oil was poured out over his life while he still smelled like sheep and wilderness. The world did not yet recognize him, but heaven had already declared his position. And so it is with you. The anointing came before the audience. The calling was activated before the confirmation. But now there is a demand for your internal world to rise with your external opportunity. This is the moment where you must stop viewing yourself through the lens of your history and start seeing yourself through the clarity of your calling. You are no longer the one trying to prove your worth. You are no longer the one striving to be included. You are now the one entrusted with something sacred. Your presence is purposeful, your influence is intentional, and your name is being carried by winds, not stirred by man. If you continue to enter new rooms with an old mindset, you will misinterpret the honor as pressure and the opportunity as burden. The wounds of past rejection, the residue of delay, the lies spoken over you in seasons of confusion, they cannot come with you. They cannot speak into the atmosphere of your next level. They were only meant to shape your resilience, not your identity. The fears that once whispered, "You're not ready," now must be silenced by the truth. He who calls you is faithful, and he will do it. 1 Thessalonians 5:24. The doubts that once kept you small must now yield to the evidence all around you that heaven has already gone ahead of you. The room is ready, the seat is prepared, the oil has already been poured. And still, the refining continues, not because you're unworthy, but because what you're stepping into is weighty. It demands clarity. In this new season, you must learn to interpret resistance not as rejection, but as preparation. When the path narrows, it's not punishment, it's precision. When a door shuts, it's not failure, it's redirection. When timing feels delayed, it's not denial, it's because alignment is being perfected. Even the storms had purpose, even the silence carried instruction, even the waiting built the muscles your next chapter requires. And when you learn to see your past, not as detours but as divine groundwork, you will stop grieving closed chapters and start honoring them. Because every moment that felt like delay was actually heaven making sure you arrived whole, not just visible. And now, beloved, there is one more truth you must settle in your spirit. Your rise was never meant to look like anyone else's. The temptation to compare, to calculate, to question the pace of your progress must now be laid down. You were never called to copy. You were called to become. Your timeline is not late. Your development is not slow. You are moving according to the rhythm of a God who sees the end from the beginning, who wastes nothing, and who knows how to bring everything together in its appointed season. As it is written in Ecclesiastes 3:11, He has made everything beautiful in its time, not your neighbor's time, not the timeline social media celebrates, in your time. So now, as heaven ushers you into this accelerated phase, let the version of you that fought to survive honor the version of you that is now being called to lead. Let the mindset that once kept you cautious give way to a posture of boldness, humility, and quiet confidence. Let the narratives others wrote about you be erased by the truth of what God has always known about you. You are not rising by accident, you are rising by assignment.